Putin, I don't think, is going to allow anything to happen that will disrupt BRICS. And that includes making sure that Russia doesn't overreact to any provocation by the Ukrainians at the behest of their NATO masters. Now, if Ukraine is dumb enough to hit something of strategic value or inflict harm on Russian national level command and control, I think the game dramatically changes, and therein lies the problem. You see, the United States isn't in control of this. We think we are, but we've just seen the United States, repeatedly push through its own red lines. You're doing it. So, yeah, I agree with them. This could lead to World War III.
So welcome back, everyone. As Inspector Scott Ritter, U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer, has pointed out in his recent analyses, Russia's strategic dominance in this conflict continues to escalate. October 7th marked a critical day as Russia's MiG-31K aircraft took off with an unmistakable purpose. The Ukrainian skies were soon filled with tension as air raid sirens blared across the entire country, a clear sign that Russia's strategic airstrikes were on their way. The Ukrainian forces quickly picked up multiple high-speed targets on their radar, a mix of Russian missiles and drones heading straight towards key military sites. But what truly struck fear into Ukraine's defenses was the sight of the K-47 M2 KINZHAL hypersonic missiles, powerful and near impossible to intercept. The target, the Staro-Konstantinov military airbase in the Khmelnytsky region, the very location housing Ukraine's F-16 fighter squadron, a gift from their Western backers. Russia's offensive this time was nothing short of a precision-engineered assault. A total of 3 KINZHAL hypersonic missiles were launched from MiG-31 Kansas, backed by a ballistic Iskander M missile, a tactical K-59 cruise missile, and an unidentified missile. As if that wasn't enough, Russia deployed a fleet of suicide drones targeting critical infrastructure all across Ukraine. Ukraine's air defenses scrambled to engage the overwhelming number of threats. In total, over 80 targets were detected on radar, but despite their best efforts, only 2 KINZHAL missiles and 32 UAVs were intercepted. The Ukrainian defense forces were clearly overwhelmed, with 37 Russian aircraft mysteriously disappearing from their radar, likely thanks to Russia's superior electronic warfare capabilities. And still, one of Russia's UAVs continued its flight, signaling that the aerial battle was far from over. For Ukrainian forces, it was a sobering reminder of the limitations of their defense systems, particularly against Russia's advanced hypersonic technology. The KINZHAL missiles move at speeds that make them nearly impossible to intercept faster than Mach 5, rendering the latest Western-supplied anti-missile systems ineffective in many cases. But the true devastation was yet to come as Russia's assault honed in on one of Ukraine's most critical military assets, the Staro-Konstantinov airbase. As Scott Ritter observed, Russia has a clear eye on key military targets like the Staro-Konstantinov airbase. This isn't just any airfield, it's a strategically important base home to Ukraine's Su-24 bombers, which are equipped with British and French Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles. These Western-donated systems are touted as game-changer by NATO allies, but they've yet to prove their worth against Russia's relentless precision strikes. According to Reba, a pro-Russian military account with over 1 million followers on Telegram, the base also houses one of Ukraine's key F-16 squadrons recently delivered by Western powers in a bid to strengthen Ukraine's air capabilities. Yet Russia has shown that these bases and their Western weaponry are far from untouchable. In late September, Russia launched a devastating assault on this very airfield, deploying 8 to 10 KINZHAL hypersonic missiles in a 2-day strike on September 26th and 27th. These missiles, traveling at hypersonic speeds, punched through Ukraine's much-touted Patriot Tetsu defense systems, leaving no room for escape. For the first time since the beginning of Russia's special military operation, we saw the deployment of up to 8 KINZHALs against a Zal target. This concentration of firepower was no accident. Russia clearly would have thought something vital was housed at Staro-Konstantinov. The results were catastrophic for Ukraine. Despite their Western allies' confidence in the Patriot systems, not a single KINZHAL missile was intercepted, further showcasing the futility of Ukraine's attempts to shield its air bases. The timing of this attack is particularly noteworthy, as it came on the heels of Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmann's announcement that the first batch of F-16 fighter jets had arrived in Ukraine. Some in the media speculated that these jets were bound for none other than Staro-Konstantinov Air Base, but with the destruction that followed, one can only wonder whether these jets ever had the chance to take off. But the F-16s were only part of the story. The human cost of this attack would prove even more devastating for NATO's involvement in the conflict. In the days following the strike, grim reports began to emerge, painting a dire picture for Ukraine and its Western backers. According to the Military Observer, 5 F-16 jets were destroyed in the assault, reducing what was once seen as Ukraine's air superiority into a heap of rubble. Even more shocking was the death of an American pilot, part of the foreign training program meant to help Ukraine's forces learn to operate these fighter jets. His widow shared a heartbreaking post online criticizing the entire effort as futile and expressing deep anger over her husband's death at Staro-Konstantinov. But the destruction didn't stop with the F-16s. A Ukrainian Su-24 bomber, which had been upgraded to fire the highly advanced Storm Advanced First Corps missiles, was completely annihilated in the strike. Even more significant, a cache of 12 Shadow missiles was wiped out in the attack, further crippling Ukraine's long-range strike capabilities. Reports suggest that while some F-16s were left heavily damaged, with significant damage to their fuselages, the Su-24 was nothing more than a smoking ruin by the end of the attack. In addition to the material losses, Ukraine also suffered a significant blow in terms of personnel. According to reports, 9 NATO officers were killed in the strike, including 6 Americans and 3 French nationals. And these officers had been stationed at Staro-Konstantinov as part of NATO's efforts to assist Ukraine in managing its air defense and missile launch operations. And they had traveled from NATO's largest airbase, Ramstein in Germany, through Moldova and into Ukraine. Their mission? To coordinate the deployment of the Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles. But their presence in Ukraine's front lines proved fatal as Russia's strike obliterated their bunker. This devastating loss is more than just a tactical setback, it's a psychological blow to Ukraine and NATO. But the damage didn't stop there. Let's take a closer look at Ukraine's troubled F-16 pilot program. As Inspector Scott Ritter has repeatedly emphasized, Ukraine's attempts to bring NATO-level training and equipment into play have faced numerous setbacks. The F-16 pilot program was meant to symbolize Ukraine's ascent into the world of modern air warfare, but with the destruction of Staro-Konstantinov and the loss of key aircraft, it seems this program is on shaky ground. Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen announced on August 31st that Danish F-16s were among the first delivered to Ukraine. However, despite these deliveries, Russia made it abundantly clear that any F-16 operating in Ukrainian skies would be a primary target. Given the track record of Ukraine's air defense against hypersonic missiles, this bold declaration by Russia is no idle threat. And with Staro-Konstantinov's runway in ruins, the likelihood of these jets making an impact on the battlefield seems increasingly remote. The West might be optimistic about Ukraine's ability to field these aircraft, but reality on the ground, or rather in the air, tells a different story. Ukraine's forces are struggling to protect their most critical assets, even with all the support they've received. While Ukraine's air capabilities falter, Russia continues to strike where it hurts the most: Ukraine's infrastructure. In addition to missile strikes, Russia has been launching relentless drone attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure. Between September and October, Russia deployed 1,339 Shade UAVs, targeting cities and towns across Ukraine. While Ukrainian forces claim to have intercepted 1,107 of these drones, the remaining 232 UAVs have caused widespread cost-air devastation, particularly in the energy sector. Ukraine's President Zelensky has accused Russia of deliberately targeting the country's thermal and hydroelectric power plants, plunging much of the nation into darkness as winter approaches. These attacks have compounded an already dire situation. Ukraine's energy grid is severely compromised, with rolling blackouts becoming the norm across the country. The Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal warned last month that Moscow is preparing for a winter offensive aimed at further crippling Ukraine's energy infrastructure. For Ukraine, This could spell disaster as power shortages become more frequent and the lack of heating in the dead of winter takes its toll on the civilian population. And meanwhile, Russia's drone and missile strategy has proven highly effective by forcing Ukraine to constantly engage incoming UAVs. Russia is stretching Ukraine's air defense systems to their breaking point. Each Shahid UAV costs a mere fraction of the Western-made missiles Ukraine is forced to use in defense. Take, for example, the Iris-T air defense missile, which costs approximately $450,000, compared to a Shahid drone, which costs as little as $20,000. It's not just a war of attrition, it's an economic war that Ukraine is ill-equipped to win. As winter approaches and Russia's strategy of attrition continues, Ukraine's future looks increasingly uncertain. As Inspector Scott Ritter has said, Russia's precision strikes are as much about strategy as they are about sheer firepower. As Russia continues its multifaceted assaults, whether through hypersonic missiles, drones, or direct strikes on critical infrastructure, Ukraine's active posture is faltering. Despite billions in Western military aid, including advanced F-16s and Patriot systems, Russia has shown that it can outmaneuver and overwhelm Ukrainian forces time and time again. This latest chapter in the conflict sends a clear message: Russia's tactical dominance is unmatched, and Ukraine's battlefield fortunes are dwindling. Thank you for watching. If you found this report informative, please subscribe, and stay tuned as we continue to cover the latest developments in this conflict. See you in the next video.